What's going on? Today we are talking Japanese business practices, which I know is going to get everybody on the edge of their seats. No, but it is really interesting. There's a practice called keiretsu. Came about after World War II when the US came in and broke up all the ultra wealthy families that were basically controlling and politicizing all of business in Japan. So Japanese businesses, in order to recover, had to form alliances to help support each other and be able to start growing and rebuilding their economy essentially. And so they created something called keiretsus. And keiretsus are relationships between different businesses that can complement each other. And it really started in the manufacturing space where you would have, let's say or a company is creating a vehicle. Well, they have suppliers, they have manufacturers, they have all these different companies that they have to rely on. So what the Japanese businesses did was they would create these alliances where they supported each other. They gave each other better pricing. Sometimes they actually took equity stake in each other's companies. So as one company grew, the value of the other company would grow also. And they made their practices working back and forth significantly more efficient. What does any of that mean to you? And how did they actually make it work? Using my business as an example, the way that I've done it is I want an expert in every single seat. Started my career, I had to be the generalist, right? I wore all the hats. I would do the financial plan, I would do the investments, I would do the insurance, I would be prospecting, I would do every part of the business. And so what we have now, I have advisors that their sole job is to be the general contractor for the client, right? They have to pull in all the other experts. I have portfolio management department that all they're doing is focusing on the research of what's the best investments, what's the best strategies, what's going on with the economy. I have then partnerships outside, right? So most of keiretsu is meant to be separate entities. And so the only internal stuff in my primary business are those two, right? We're gonna do your financial planning, we're gonna do your investment. So using my business as an example, the primary business, Destination Wealth, we do two things above all else. Number one, we're gonna be the financial planners. We are creating the plans, we are connecting the outside experts, things like that. We're your point person on your financial situation. The second thing is the investment portfolio management. We are going to have an entire department that's doing all the research, they're creating the strategies, they're choosing what to buy and what to sell. That's the only thing that I want us to be really good at. That's where I want us to be experts, is those two things. I want to create keiretsus, or I want to create alliances with these other companies. And so we have a CPA firm called BGW CPA that actually owns a minority stake in our company, and we're able to work back and forth on client. When that happens, it takes the pressure off of the client, meaning they no longer have to be the one connecting their CPA with their advisor, with their insurance guy. That takes the pressure and time off of the client, and we're giving time back to them. It also allows those clients to be deeper served because now they're not only getting tax stuff on the CPA side, and they're not only getting investment stuff on our side, they're getting this blended comprehensive experience. So it really works well from the outside for the client perspective. On the inside aspect of it, what it does is it gives my advisors a much easier way to grow their business. They're not out there knocking on doors or cold calling, right? We're just developing relationships that are already built into this keiretsu or this alliance. And so it allows us to grow faster, and in return allows the CPA firm to grow faster as well. We also have a relationship, and this is a little bit more informal, with an insurance company. They are the expert for us. I don't want my advisors knowing all the intricacies of really complex life insurance strategies. I want us to know what the different strategies are, and then I want us to rely on that insurance company that has access to like 70 different insurance companies and all the products out there to give us the unbiased perspective of what should we be utilizing in that world. So they are the experts in that one area. And those are the relationships that we have, is that type of stuff. We have a TPA firm, or third party administrator. Basically, it's people running the back end or the admin type work of a 401k plan. So we do a lot of 401k work because we work with business owners. So we need to have a TPA firm that we can make sure that it's extremely high quality, because that's just a world that we've suffered with of what they can do and can't do. So, okay, great, we've got that relationship there. And as that continues to go, our future plans are, what else are we adding? We're adding private equity and private credit and alternative investments. And we're not gonna do that internally. We're gonna have a separate company that's what they're going to do. By doing it that way, instead of having everything under one organization, it essentially throws out the window the concept of we are a one-size-fits-all thing. And I think a lot of businesses get in trouble with that, where they try to be the answer to everybody. And if you're the answer to everybody, you're really the answer to nobody. And I think that's one of the big things that this Keiretsu concept opened my eyes to, was we want to be very focused on what we're gonna be the best in the world at. And if it doesn't fit those couple things, we need to find a partner for that. We need to find an alliance, a Keiretsu for that, so that way we don't try to be an answer to everybody and fall into that trap, which essentially would just make us not profitable, not efficient, worse experience for clients. But that list goes on and on of how bad that trap can be. How can you take this and apply it to your world, right? The example that I gave, and again, I'm just using myself as the guinea pig, but the example I gave in my business, if you were to look at your company, you need to figure out what are the ancillary things that make your customer or client experience better. Whatever that is, the next step after that, look at how many of those things you're trying to do internally that really should be farmed out. That should be in an alliance in a different company instead. And if you can develop that list, essentially, what you can do after is then you go out and you find the right partner. A few different ways to do it. I've done it 3 different ways. I've done it through a company outside of us owning some stake in our firm. I've done it through a financial relationship agreement, meaning we're sharing revenue back and forth based off of the business we're doing. And I've done it a third way, which is just we create another company that our holding company owns, but it's separate, it's focused, it's nuanced. However you want to set that up is fine. The thing that I don't want you to do is I don't want you to say, hey, here's our core business, here's the 6 things around it that would make our client experience better, and then you go and try to do all of them. I would say find those alliances either with existing companies or put a game plan together to create your own organizations to do that. If you really dive into Keiretsu, you're gonna see a lot of examples of companies like Chrysler, for example, is a great example in America that use the Keiretsu concept by developing relationships with manufacturers and suppliers. You're gonna find a lot of those examples if you wanna go out and actually seek real world life experiences of companies trying to and succeeding with the concept of these Keiretsu alliances. That would be the takeaway that I give you, is do that analysis of what's your core business, what do you want to be the best in the world at, and then what are those ancillary things and how do you complement them? So the next question really is, how do you implement it, right? The concept probably makes sense to you, but the implementation is where it's extremely difficult. You may do that introspective view on what's your core business and what are the ancillary offerings, but then you have to find the companies that do that, and then you have to approach them and get them on board with some sort of relationship or dynamic. I think a lot of people can get the concept of it, but getting that over the finish line is gonna be the part that's really difficult for you. And it was for me too, of how do we put the agreements and contracts together to make it to where it's mutually beneficial. And that would be the part that I would make sure you don't rush into, because even though you could be excited about the idea of it, if you don't go about it right, you're gonna get a lot of people saying no, you're gonna get a lot of people that have no idea what you're talking about or why it's even beneficial for them. So I think it's going to be extremely important once you identify those companies that you may be interested in. It's not a flip of the switch. I think you have to develop the relationships over time. And once you have the relationships and the conversation going of, hey, we're not competitors, but we are complementers, right? We complement each other's businesses. Broaching the subject of, is there a way for us to formalize this to make this mutually beneficial? Is there a way that you and I working together can be a 1 + 1 = 3 type scenario? And if you rush into it, you're going to get shot down time and time again. And that's fine, right? If you want to play a numbers game and just go ask 100 people, the issue I think that you'll have there is number 100 that finally says yes. It's probably not the partner that you actually want to be working with. If you develop the wrong relationships, it could blow your entire business up. Because if you have a relationship with where you're sharing clients and you're holding up your end of the bargain, but they're dropping the ball on their end, it's gonna fall back on you because you're the one that has that relationship in place, right? Your client may not have specifically chosen to use somebody. In our situation, let's use that insurance company. Those insurance experts are doing a terrible job, or they're not responding to clients, or they're not following up, or they're not doing their job, and I was the one that brought them in. My clients are gonna be pissed at me because it was my responsibility to find the expert and I gave them a shitty expert. If you just go out and try and make it a numbers game, yeah, that's fine in theory, but I think you're gonna end up with some pretty bad partners, some pretty bad alliances. So if you really wanna implement this Keiretsu concept, what you need to do is you need to make sure that you're being very methodical of developing the relationships and not putting the cart in front of the horse where you're rushing into a relationship that they may not be ready for.